I still remember the sound of his glass touching the rim of mine, a soft, crystal chime that cut sharper than any word that followed. It was Easter Sunday. The table was dressed in pale yellow, candles flickering between glazed ham and smiling faces pretending everything was fine. And then my dad, Robert Reed, raised his glass, smirked across the table, and said, "Give me back the money I wasted raising you." The laughter that followed wasn't loud, but it was enough. Enough to tell me that no one at that table would ever defend me. Not my stepmother, not my brother, not even silence could save me that night. I smiled. The kind of smile you learn after years of holding yourself together. My hand didn't shake. My voice didn't break. Because the girl who used to cry at his words? She was long gone. I took a slow sip of wine, the same Chardonnay he used to call too fancy for you, and looked around that table of people who still thought I was the failure they'd left behind. They didn't know. Not about the company I built. Not about the people I helped. Not about the quiet empire I'd created while they were busy doubting me. And that night, for the first time, I decided they were finally going to know. I was 19 when I first realized my father didn't see me as a daughter, just an investment that went wrong. Back then, I was just Madison Reed, the quiet girl with big dreams and no backup plan. I wanted to study interior design, something creative, something that made me feel alive. But to him, that was a hobby for rich girls, not a career. He wanted me to major in finance like my brother, Ethan, and work for his construction company. "Design doesn't pay bills, Maddie," he'd said, slamming the acceptance letter onto the table. "You'll thank me when you grow up." But I didn't thank him. I just stood there, my palms sweating against the envelope that held the first thing I'd ever earned on my own, a scholarship letter from the University of Chicago. When I told him I wanted to go, he laughed. "A full scholarship? What, you think you're smarter than me now?" My stepmother, Denise, chimed in, swirling her wine. "She'll be back in 6 months. Girls like her don't make it far without daddy's money." That night, I packed my things. Just a small suitcase, a stack of design sketches, and the gold bracelet my grandmother gave me before she passed, engraved with one word: endure. Grandma always said, "People will try to make you small, Maddie. Your job is to outgrow them." As I zipped the suitcase, my hand shook so hard I could barely close it. I stood at the doorway, waiting, hoping my dad would stop me. That maybe he'd say, "I'm proud of you." He didn't. He didn't even look up from his newspaper. The front door clicked behind me, and for the first time, I realized silence could hurt more than shouting. It was raining that night, cold, relentless. I remember gripping that bracelet so tightly, it left a mark on my palm. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew one thing. I was never coming back until I had something worth coming back with. The first few months in Chicago were survival. I worked double shifts at a coffee shop near campus, mornings behind the counter, nights sketching in my dorm until my eyes burned. I couldn't afford real design software, so I drew every floor plan by hand. My professors saw something in me, something even I didn't fully believe in yet. But belief can grow in strange places. There was a woman named Alicia Monroe, one of my design instructors, mid-40s, sharp bob, always smelled like peppermint tea and ink. She was the first person who said the words I'd been starving to hear. "You've got an eye for spaces that feel like people. Don't lose that." She introduced me to a small interior firm that needed interns. Unpaid, of course. But I said yes anyway. I spent my days cleaning supply closets, fetching coffees, and watching from the corner of conference rooms, absorbing every detail. How light hit walls. How colors changed moods. How the richest clients often had the emptiest rooms. At night, I'd go home and redesign those rooms in my sketchbook. Better, warmer, human. 2 years later, one of those sketches changed my life. Alicia showed it to a boutique hotel owner looking for something fresh. They gave me one room to test. Just one. I poured every drop of myself into that design. Late nights, borrowed furniture, 1,000 tiny decisions that no one but me would notice. When it was done, I didn't expect much. But 2 weeks later, the hotel's lobby was filled with influencers taking pictures. The owner called me personally. "You've got something special, kid. Ever thought about going solo?" That's how Reed Studio Designs was born, out of a one-bedroom apartment with a borrowed laptop and a vision board taped to the wall. The first few months were chaos. Clients who didn't pay, landlords who didn't wait, meals that looked more like survival than dinner. But I pushed through. Every rejection became a reason to work harder. Then one day, my phone buzzed with an email that changed everything. A national magazine wanted to feature one of my projects. I remember staring at that screen, half laughing, half crying, whispering to myself, "See, Dad?" It paid bills. By the time I turned 28, my designs had been featured in 3 magazines, 2 celebrity homes, and a handful of commercial spaces. But I never bragged. On social media, I stayed quiet. Just soft updates. Busy week. Excited for new clients. I never mentioned how big those clients were. I never posted the skyline view from my new penthouse. Because part of me, that 19-year-old girl with rain in her hair, still remembered what it felt like to be laughed at across a dinner table. So, I built my empire in silence. And when Easter came around this year and my stepmother sent the message, "Family dinner, Sunday at 7. Don't be late this time," I smiled. Because for once, I wasn't the one with anything to prove. Easter dinner at my father's house hadn't changed much in 10 years. Same floral china. Same creaky chairs. Same hollow laughter bouncing off the walls. Only this time, I wasn't the scared 19-year-old with a half-packed suitcase. I was 30 now, wearing a white silk blouse, gold bracelet on my wrist, and calm I had earned the hard way. I'd parked my car a few blocks away, not because I was hiding it, but because I wanted to see the house before walking in. It looked smaller now. The paint was chipped, the porch light flickered, and for a second, I almost felt sorry for it. When I stepped inside, Denise, my stepmother, greeted me first.
"Oh,
"Madison, you made it," she said, her smile tight. "We weren't sure if you'd come this year. You're always so busy."
busy."
The word dripped with sarcasm. I smiled politely and handed her a small box of imported chocolates.
"For you," I said.
"Thought you'd like something sweet for once." Ethan was there too, my brother, looking tired, still working for Dad, still stuck in that loop. Moments later, Dad walked in. His hair was grayer, his voice just as sharp. "Well, look who decided to join us," he said, patting my shoulder like I was a guest in my own family. We sat around the table, ham, mashed potatoes, candles flickering between us. Denise poured wine. The conversation was small talk and mild judgment disguised as care. And then, halfway through the meal, he did it. He raised his glass. "You know," he said, voice loud enough for everyone to hear, "I was just thinking, maybe Madison can finally pay me back for all the money I wasted raising her." It was said like a joke, but his eyes, cold and sharp, told me it wasn't one. Denise laughed. Ethan looked down. The room went silent except for the sound of my heart, steady, calm. I placed my fork down gently, wiped my mouth with a napkin, and looked him in the eye. "You're right," I said softly. "You did waste money." He blinked, startled. "But not because of me. Because you never realized your investment paid off." I stood up, reached into my purse, and pulled out a folded magazine. The one with my face on the cover. Forbes Home and Style, the visionary behind Reed Studio Designs. I slid it across the table. His hand froze midair. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered. "No," I said. "That's my company. The one you said would never pay bills. We design homes for people who know what home means, something you never taught me." The silence was heavy, like the whole room was holding its breath. Denise stared, her smile gone. Ethan whispered, "You own that firm?" I nodded, calm but firm. And I didn't need a cent from anyone here. Every dollar I made, I earned. My father's jaw tightened. "So, what, you're rich now? You think that makes you better than us?" I shook my head slowly.
"No, Dad."
"It doesn't make me better. It just makes me free." The candlelight flickered across his face. Anger, pride, regret, all tangled into something unreadable. Denise tried to change the subject, But the damage was done. The truth was out. For the first time in years, no one spoke over me. They just stared at the woman they dismissed, now standing taller than all their expectations combined. I smiled, lifted my glass, and said quietly, "To investments that finally paid off." No one spoke after that. Even the ticking clock on the wall seemed louder than usual. Dad's hand rested near the magazine, his fingers brushing the glossy page that carried my name, Madison Reed, CEO and lead designer, Reed Studio Designs. For once, he looked unsure. Like he didn't recognize the daughter sitting across from him.
Good.
He wasn't supposed to. I leaned back in my chair, my voice quiet but steady. "You want a repayment, Dad?"
Fine.
"I'll pay you back." His head jerked up, surprised. "But not with money. I'm offering something better, a chance to fix what money can't." Denise scoffed. "Oh, here we go again. What? Are you going to lecture us now?" I turned to her, my tone still calm.
No, Denise.
"I'm going to offer you something." I looked her in the eye, the woman who had spent years whispering poison into my father's ear. "You always said I wouldn't last on my own. You were right, I didn't.
I thrived.
But here's the thing, you don't need to tear others down to feel tall. I'll fund that bakery you always dreamed of, the one you mentioned before you married Dad. But only if you promise to run it your way, not as anyone's shadow." Her lips parted, but no sound came. She wasn't expecting kindness. That made it hit harder. Then I turned to my brother, Ethan. "You've spent your whole life trying to make him proud, even when it meant giving up what you wanted. I'll help you start your own construction company, one that builds homes for families, not just profits. But only if you quit working for him. You deserve your own name." Ethan's eyes softened. For the first time, he didn't look like a boy chasing approval. He looked free. And finally, I faced my father. He leaned back, arms crossed, a wall of pride holding him up. "And what about me?" he said. "What condition do you have for your old man?" I met his gaze, steady and unflinching. "Just one. You stop measuring worth in dollars. You stop raising your voice when you should be raising your family. And maybe you learn to say, 'I'm proud of you,' before it's too late." He didn't answer. His jaw tightened, but his eyes flickered, just for a second, with something that almost looked like guilt. I picked up my glass, took a slow sip, and continued softly. "I didn't come here for revenge. I came here to show you that I made it because of everything you said I couldn't do. And if I can forgive you, maybe you can forgive yourself too." The table was silent, not cold this time, but reflective. Even Denise's voice, always sharp, softened. "You really would do that for us?" she whispered. I nodded. "Not for you.
For me.
Because carrying hate weighs more than any debt ever could." For the first time, my father didn't look like the man who broke me. He looked like someone finally realizing what he'd lost and who he'd underestimated. 2 weeks after that Easter dinner, a small envelope arrived in the mail. No return address. Just my name, written in my father's unmistakable handwriting. Inside was a single note. "Madison, I don't know how to say I'm proud of you, but I am. Dad." I stared at it for a long time. The words weren't perfect, but they were real. And after all those years, real was enough. Denise called me a few days later too, said she'd found a small corner space downtown for her bakery. She sounded lighter, hopeful. Ethan sent a text. "Sign the papers. My company's official. Thank you." I didn't need to respond with big words. Just a heart emoji and a smile that wouldn't leave my face for hours. Sometimes healing doesn't look like dramatic apologies or tears. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle, the sound of something broken finally breathing again. I walked into my office that evening, sunlight spilling through the glass walls, the city alive beneath me. On my desk sat the gold bracelet Grandma had given me all those years ago. I picked it up, traced the engraving with my thumb. Endure. She'd been right. Enduring didn't mean staying silent. It meant surviving long enough to speak your truth when it mattered most. I clasped the bracelet around my wrist again, not as a reminder of pain, but as proof of what it created. When I looked out at the skyline, The buildings I once only dreamed of designing. I smiled. Not out of pride, but peace. Because I'd finally learned that success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. That Easter night began with a glass raised in mockery, but it ended with one raised in victory. And as my voice would echo, if this were a story told aloud, I'd leave it with this. He once asked me to give back the money he wasted raising me. But the truth is that money didn't raise me. My will did. My pain did. And every dream they laughed at paid it all back in full.